When I was a kid at home playing RuneScape after school, my parents would often hit me with the, "Son, haven't you beaten that game yet?" "No, Dad, it's not that type of game." Now I'm here sitting in front of my screen on New Year's Day, just reflecting, thinking, haven't I beaten this thing already? What does it even mean to beat RuneScape? What does that even look like? Realistically, this is going to look different for everyone. What brings you to the theoretical old school RuneScape climax? For me, it's a few key things. First, maxing all the skills. What's more completionist than completing the most basic part of this game? I set out to complete all the skills in the game about 2 years back. 200 mil all doesn't interest me at all. I do go outside. Collection logs are cool, and I do really like this type of content, but ultimately the time that is required to get all of them is far more than I'm willing to spend, and I think that RNG-based grinds are just not for me. I've done all of the typical rites of passage, the Fire Cape, the Inferno, Blood Torva, but there's one challenge that still lays in wait, or set of challenges. To finally beat old school RuneScape, I need to get my hands on one of these. Behold, the TzHaar Challenges Slayer Helm. This is awarded upon completion of all the game's combat achievements. I've been slowly chipping away at these over the past few years, but it's time to make one last push. I have 30 of them left to go, and in this video, I will be completing all of them. No long drawn out series, just one after another. The Inferno is some of the most difficult content in the game, but on our list, it's really the most approachable of my current combat achievements that I have left. Most of what I do have left requires having a team to complete, whereas the Inferno is purely solo. This is great because I can just hop on and do this whenever, instead of waiting for people to get online who are both willing and capable of running the other content. Luckily, I already have most of these done, except for the hardest ones. To start things off, I'm gonna pick the easiest of the hard ones. Jad, what are you doing here? The only restriction is that we have to not kill the Jad that spawns during the Zuck fight. The strategy here is to do the fight like normal, tag Jad so that he doesn't kill your shield, and then you just have to pay attention to his hits, the Zuck shield, healers, your HP, food, prayer, etc. Needless to say, I greatly underestimated this one. At first, I kept on dying because I was trying to send it as fast as I could, and I just kept on doing reckless stuff. I'm not really good enough to do that. I don't have any clips of this because I'm not recording the full runs. Editing them together, 60-minute clips is just, it's terrible. I pretty much just turned on the recorder for Zuck. After a while, I committed to playing it somewhat safe, but getting to Zuck every single run, which is where my greatest enemy, the Jad hands, took over. I am the shakiest boy. After about 6 Zucks, I just kind of got over the nerves. I didn't want to waste all of the time that I spent getting here either, so I played it extremely safe during the healers, just moving with the shield, making sure to take time to pray for all the Jad hits. I did not want to get one hit this late in the fight. And then, after healers, we just nuke Jad from orbit. 1 down, 3 to go. Our next challenge is facing Jad head-on 2. For this achievement, we're gonna have to complete the Inferno, but this time we can't equip a range or magic weapon until we're fighting Zuck on the final wave. For the gear setup, I went with minimal switches, Barrow's gloves, Blood Fury since they work for both melee and range. I have the SGS for extra healing, and then I know it's cringe, but I brought Justy for its prayer bonus and its tankiness. If you look at the fine print here, you cannot equip a magic weapon, but you can still manually cast Barrage, which makes dealing with the Nibblers way easier and offers us an extra way to heal. This combat achievement also took me an embarrassing amount of attempts, but for the opposite reason than the first one, I just could not get to Zuck, and I kept dying in the dumbest ways possible during the late waves. And I think that's why so many people get so frustrated with the Inferno. If you are dying, it's gonna be really late in the Inferno. You're usually not dying in the beginning, so you've already invested like an hour, and it just feels like you're wasting so much time. Anyways, I finally made it to Zuck, but the lack of true range gear or just poor RNG made this go extremely slowly, and I actually got a second set. This is pretty interesting because I cannot remember the last time that this actually happened to me. Anyways, I knew that if I made it to Zuck, it was going to be one and done. Combat achievement completed. 2 more to go, and after doing a bunch of the Inferno, I was starting to get a little bit of an ego, and I thought this one would be a breeze. Nope. Behold, we have Nibbler Chaser. No magic spells allowed, except for certain ones like Death Charge and Thralls. Kind of weird that they allow this. I do really wish that I had all the death clips from this one because it was getting me so tilted. I would get late waves so many times, but you really don't realize how much you relied on Blood Barrage until you no longer have it. To combat this lack of healing, I regeared with the Light Bear for twice as many SGS specs, Death Charge for even more SGS specs, and then I took a Scythe and Blood Fury to heal up as much as possible at the end of each wave. It took ages, but playing it super safe, I managed to finally get it to Zuck. Pretty standard TzHaar Zuck experience for the W. And that brings us to our final challenge. We have It Wasn't Even Close. We have to kill Zuck without letting your hit points fall below 50 during any wave of the Inferno. This is easily the most difficult one. In the later waves of the Inferno, you're getting hit by multiple enemies at once, and a lot of these hit pretty hard if you look at this column right here. I tried to get this combat achievement every single other one of these runs, and I got nowhere even near it. For this, I'm gonna actually use a real strategy. I'm gonna be healing above full every single wave with the Blood Scepter. I'm gonna be playing each and every wave extremely safely. I'm not gonna be chasing nibblers, and I'm gonna make sure that I never ever even get chanced. Here's the magic setup that we're gonna be rolling with. I brought a cape, which I usually don't, just because I really want to freeze those nibblers and not have to run after them at all. The Blood Ancient Scepter is gonna be able to overheal us to, I think, 109 to start off every wave, which is gonna greatly increase our chance of not dropping below 50. And then we have our tankiest gear in the other slots. For the rest of it, pretty standard. I'm bringing the SGS. I know it's a little bit cringe, but I'm not bringing a lot of prayer, so I am going to be using that for my specs if possible, because I'm pack yakking 8 brews because I just do not want to fail this one. Well, that sucks. I'm actually going to take back that bit that I said in the beginning that this is the hardest one. I got this the next try, like pretty much no problem. Maybe it's just because I've been doing Inferno for like 3 days straight now, and I've gotten like kind of okay at this, but it really didn't seem that bad. Inferno officially completed. On to the next one. The hardest part about Nightmare combat achievements is finding a team who's willing to go to Nightmare with you. Luckily, I only have one, and realistically, you can do a long trip with one person. All you gotta do is kill the Nightmare without any player losing any prayer points, but a solo kill takes forever normally, and without prayers, it takes extra forever. For this one, I teamed up with a couple of my buddies just to make it go a little bit quicker. There's a higher chance of somebody making a mistake, but I'd take that over a 20-30 minute kill any day of the week. In Moral Wreck, right outside of the Inferno, there is this guy right here, TzHaar Challenges, who gives you different challenges. All of these have different amounts of Jeds that you have to kill all at the same time. I only have one of these left as well, but it's also one of the challenges overall for GM that I'm the most worried about. You have to complete the TzHaar Challenges 5th and 6th challenges back to back without failing. At first, I was honestly super worried about this, and when I got started, I failed the 5th challenge probably 8 or 9 times in a row. So I couldn't even go in to send the attempt on the 6th one. Eventually, like everything in this game, it kind of just started to click and we completed the 5th challenge. The hardest part about this challenge is getting the healers off of the Jad. You're so focused on nailing all of the prayers correctly, not missing anything. It's hard to switch over to your chins and tag all the healers without also losing focus on where you are in the cycle. I don't know what it is about my brain. The 5 Jad challenge was so difficult to get started, but I kind of just nailed the 6 Jad challenge on the first try. Now I am Colosseum locked. Honestly, I messed up big time here. I did all the Colosseum achievements except for this one a long time back, and now I have to relearn all of the Colosseum to get back to the skill level of where I was before in order to do the hardest one. Not my best decision. If you guys are going for GM or you guys are just going for combat achievements or anything, I recommend just doing an entire piece of content at once. That way you are going to be the best that you ever were at that, and you don't have to go back and go through what I'm going through right now because it's extremely frustrating. The combat achievement in question is Reinforcement. We have to defeat Soul Heredit with the Bees 2, Quartet, and Solar Flare 2 modifiers active. These invocations fucking suck. So I kind of just lost motivation at this point to record, to make this video and all that stuff, but I just started focusing on completing the tasks. I don't have any Colosseum footage of me actually getting this, so you can go ahead and assume that I just parseced it. My biggest recommendation to you guys is if you are going for a combat achievement at a boss, go for all of the combat achievements at that boss. Don't force yourself to relearn that piece of content like months or even a year down the road. This was a truly miserable experience. Hey, yo, like and subscribe to the video. For Cox, I have 2 combat achievements left. We have Perfect Olm Trio, and then the 5-man challenge mode speed time. Low-key, I do have to be honest with you guys, the Perfect Olm Trio is the only task that I even considered purchasing off of a boosting group. This task is super goofy, it's so frustrating. It basically requires you to not get hit by certain special attacks. You can die though during the perfect. You can die as much as you want as long as you don't get hit by those attacks. But you can also get hit by certain other special attacks like that Vorkath crystal attack. I don't know, man. It's weird, and my teams kept failing it because of the poison attack. Shit's miserable. This task can go to hell. My master plan for this one was to just keep on sending it until it clicked and my team got it, and eventually it just ended up working out for us. Yes, oh my god, finally. CM5's time requires us to do the raid in 25 minutes. Realistically, this shouldn't be too bad, other than finding the other people who are willing to actually do this. So, time to load up We Do Raids. Well, that was fun. And then one raid remained, the Theater of Blood. They break hard mode into its own section, and while it is the hardest raid in the game, the combat achievements here are significantly easier than the normal Theater of Blood. First up, we're going to tackle the speed times. There are speedruns for 3-man, 4-man, and 5-man. For hard mode Ptob, all of the time in the raid counts, including the time in between the rooms. This makes it really important for you to get into the next room and start the encounter as soon as humanly possible, and this is one of the main reasons and main areas where people do lose time. For some reason, every hard mode Ptob that you do, you have that one guy who just needs to go on a shopping spree at the TzHaar chest. He is the reason that you do not have that time yet. Other than this, there's no special strategies going on here. It's literally just do the raid with minimal deaths and know what you're going to buy from that chest before you get to it. Time is literally just a passive thing that you're going to get with raid completion. The 3-man did give me some trouble. I think this one probably took like 5 or 6 attempts. It's just a lot of like maiden resets trying to get a better time, and ultimately you kind of don't really need to reset Maiden just because this time is so free. To get 4s done though, it was clear that I was going to have to recruit more teammates. Where better than the Combat Achievements Discord? I was avoiding this mostly because the people here tend to be pretty toxic, but it was gonna be the fastest way to get these done. The 4-man time ended up being a one and done with the Combat Achievement Discord folks, big shout out to them, and then the 5-man time actually got done in just some random We Do Raids fill. Then there's the harder mode tasks. Harder mode 1, I just got this one passively, so I don't actually have a recording. This one is just perfect Soditseg, but you have to tick eat the balls. Not bad at all. Harder mode 2, this one is the exact opposite. You have to let Zarpus heal to full, and then you have to do perfect Zarpus. As you can see, you can download some tiles that make your screen absolutely terrible to look at. Do your specs and the whole team just DDs and blowpipes around the room. We had one minor scuff on this because one of my boys went to the wrong tile, but we got this the next try. Harder mode 3 is a fun one. For this task, you have to do a hard mode Ptob, but on phase 3 of Xeric, you cannot use a melee weapon. You can either use a shadow or you can use a Staff of the Dead. The Staff of the Dead has decent melee stats, and since you are already bringing max melee, this is the better choice. On paper, the shadow setup is better, but you have to bring a full mage switch, and your heart is ruined the second that you brew for the first time, and you're going to be doing a lot of brewing. In all of my runs, all of my majors died super early and didn't get the task. Personal space. This one sucked. Bloat is the most frustrating boss in Oldschool Runescape. For this task, you have to complete hard mode Ptob Bloat in a trio or above without running on top of another player. The technique that we went with is to have 2 people on the first row, 1 on either side of the bloat, and then 1 person on the second row. Inventories are just packed full to the brim of Phoenix because you end up taking a ton of flies with this one. This is one of the very few tasks that I will not go back and help anybody out with. This was absolutely miserable. The rest of the miscellaneous ones are pretty straightforward. We have Nilo Sniper. For this one, you basically go to the walls for P2, go off the crabs with your Sang, and then leave the purple crab up so you don't get any more crabs during P2. For phase 3, you essentially do the same thing. It's very similar to the perfect Ptob technique, but in hard mode, you actually have to kill the crabs. Act like a yak is deceptively annoying. You basically just have to do the raid, but nobody can die and you can't touch any of the chests. On paper, super simple, but with hard mode Ptob, people tend to die a lot, so this one can take several attempts. Longtime watchers of the channel know that I am a massive Theater of Blood fanboy. I just love this raid. It also just so happens that I saved the best for last. Not just because I lost my Toa 8-man footage, but also because the Theater of Blood combat achievements are some of the, if not the, most difficult combat achievements in the game. Most of these, I have them already just from running so many Theater of Bloods normally, but what I have left is the penultimate challenge of the Ptob speedruns, and then our final challenge, Perfect Theater. Duo time was legit free. It was my very first time sending a duo. We did nothing special other than just try not to miss ticks, and we got it, one and done. Trios was a little bit more difficult. For Maiden, we opted to not do stacking since it's just really not needed and we weren't super comfortable with it. A simple 30 skip puts you well into the realms of pacing for time. Float should be an easy 2 down, just reset if you don't get it. Nilos doesn't have to be anything special, just go fast. For Sotetseg, you legit just really have to hope your hammer's hit. I think that's one of my biggest takeaways with all of these Ptob speeds is just defense reduction being king. For Xeric, we did the standard 1-1-2 method with the staff so that we could all regen our spec back more quickly, and then from there, it's just swinging sides. For fours, we introduced 2 new methods to speed up the raid. For Maiden, we're going to be stacking. What this means is that we freeze the crabs to spawn at 70% health and 50% health on top of each other. This allows you to use AoE attacks to clear them much more quickly than if you spawn them individually. For Xeric, we're going to be using one of these. Using the Preach function on the Godbook uses 25 special attack energy, which when timed correctly with the start of the room, allows each player to spec with the Dawnbringer 3 times in a row. We ignore the pillar entirely as P1 ends pretty quickly, and then the rest of the fight is just same as normal. A massive thanks to these boys for the easy one and done. For 5s, what you're going to want to do is spend 3 days finding a team because no one on this planet wants to send this. Luckily, I was able to get 3 other people to join me and Furwy from the CA Discord, and we were eventually able to send this. Most of the rooms are the same as the 4-man, but just faster and more fun. The one huge difference is that we're going to have to 1-down Bloat. To do this, 2 people are attacking Bloat with Phoenix necklaces until he goes down for the very first time. This should give you enough damage in order to kill him before a second down. It sounds scary, but this one really only took us 1 reset. Other than that, the rest of the raid was smooth sailing and honestly some of the most fun I've ever had in this game. Shout out to these guys as well. And this leaves us with one final challenge. Perfect Theater. This is the task that took me the longest to complete. If you can't read, you got to do every room in Ptob perfectly all in a row. And after this, pretty much every run, except for like maybe 1 or 2 was deep runs, we just got Maiden down. It just clicked for some reason. Bloat was almost a success every single time. I think we failed it once or twice, and Nilo's is just absolutely free with the right plugins. Oh, also, our comms sounded like this almost the entire time. Yo, somebody buy my boy a real mic. But yeah, this is why all the audio is muted. And it's finally won. It's finally over. This one took so long, so many attempts, so many resets. I am at long last a RuneScape Grandmaster. And we absolutely have to take the obligatory picture at the Warriors Guild. Anyways, guys, absolutely thrilled to have this done with. This has been hanging over my head for like 3 years now. Whenever this came out eventually, and they keep on adding more and more combat achievements, which is great because I can start making those videos like, oh, Jagex took my Zuck helm away from me, which should be coming up soon here with those Royal Titans. And honestly, I started making this like a month and a half ago. I have no clue what the point of this video is. I hope you enjoyed it. The vision for it changed multiple times over the course of it, so you got this mess. Thank you for sticking around for me. Special thank you to you guys, the viewers, for sticking around to this late in the video and this late in my channel. Thanks to all the boys from the CA Discord who made it in the video, the many who didn't, because all of these take way more than one attempt to get done. It was a hell of a journey, and a huge special thank you to Fishn Virus and Furwy for doing a vast majority of these with me, including Perfect Ptob, which was, in my opinion, the most difficult one of these. And I can finally quit the game! Ooh, and I found a little bonus clip too. Honestly, my clips folder is such a mess from this. My boy Chewy helped me out with Insanity, which probably took like 5 or 6 attempts. It's another one of those perfect tests, which I'm just really not that good at that, but thanks guys. I'll see you in the next one.